Learning can take place anywhere, at home, in school, online, in bed, and right here. You can follow all of our social medias at the end of this video, and we hope you enjoy.
Hi, we are United Tutoring, an organization where tutors volunteer to teach underprivileged kids and help them reach their full potential. Today we'll be focusing on simplifying and using square root. Simplify expressions with square roots. So when a number n is multiplied by itself, we can say it's n squared. In other words, we could write n times n as n squared. For example, if 8 times 8 is given, we could write it as 8 squared. This table shows how that when we multiply these numbers by themselves, they give us these squares. So for example, if 13 is multiplied by itself, it would give us 169. And these solutions are called squares. So then 169 would be known as a square. We can also model these squares by using figures such as these. If the number of rows is equal to the number of columns, we could then say that the number of squares in that grid is a square. For example, if we have 3 rows and 3 columns, when we multiply them together, it would give us 9. So if these numbers are called squares, then what are these numbers called? Well, they are called square roots. So if n squared is equal to n, then n is the square root of m. We could also write it this way. This is the symbol we use to describe a square root. So the square root of m is equal to n. For example, if we take this pair over here, we could write it this way. The square root of 4 is equal to 2. We have only been talking about the square roots of positive numbers, but is there a square root for a negative number? Well, since the number located here should be multiplied by itself, we would have only two cases. In case 1, we could multiply a negative number by itself and we would get a positive number. We would also get a positive number for case 2. So it can be deducted that there would be no situation where a square can be a negative number. Moving on, we're going to learn how to find solutions by using square roots, an order of operations. In the first question, we're asked to find the sum of the square root of 25 and the square root of 144. So in this case, we would find the square roots first before adding. So the square root of 25 is 5 and the square root of 144 is 12. Then we add both numbers, which would get us 17. In the second question, we are asked to find the square root of 25 plus 144. So here, we would add the numbers first and then take the square root of the sum. So 25 plus 144 is 169, and the square root of 169 is 13. Estimating square roots. If the square roots of some numbers are integers, then we could say that those squares are perfect squares. So here, since 4 and 9 gives us integers like 2 and 3, we could say 4 and 9 are perfect squares. We can estimate the square roots of these four numbers by setting up an inequality. Since 2 comes before the square root of 5, we could say the square root of 5 is greater than 2, and since 3 comes after, we could write that the square root of 5 is less than 3. We could also find the approximate value of the square roots by using a calculator. We would just need to set the radical phi into the calculator, then we would get a decimal value. Now we're going to learn how to simplify variable expressions with square roots. In this question, we're given the radical 9x squared. So we need to find the value which multiplied by itself would give us 9x squared. So first we're going to find out what multiplied by itself would give us 9. In this table, we can see that 3 multiplied by itself would give us 9. So we can just insert the value 3 over here. Then we still have the x squared remaining. And instead of n, we could just take x. So x times x would give us x squared. And the final answer would be 3x. Finally, we're going to learn how to use square roots in applications. Square roots and area. Mike and Lesha want to make a square patio. They have enough concrete for an area of 200 square feet. To the nearest tenth of a foot, how long can a side of their square patio be? Pause the video and try to solve the question by yourself. I hope you try to solve the problem on your own first. Now we're going to do it together. We know that the area of a square is s squared, so we could set the equation as s squared is equal to 200 since it's given. So the opposite of squaring is finding the square root. So we would set the equation as s is equal to the square root of 200. And we could find this by just plugging it into the calculator. Then we would get the approximate value, which is equal to 14.1 feet.